For thousands of Oklahomans suffering from mental illness, increasingly the only place to get treatment is in jail or prison. More than 36% of the state's prison population has been diagnosed as mentally ill. ONR and Oklahoma Watch teamed up to report on the efforts of a group of state agencies that are pooling their resources to provide treatment behind bars, treatment that is showing dramatic results.
The number of mentally ill prison inmates has been steadily increasing. Years ago, the Department of Corrections began to develop treatment plans to address the health needs of the growing mentally ill population, and now has what is being termed as a model system to identify inmates with mental illness and begin a treatment program that extends all the way through their stay behind bars and even to when they are released back into society. Mike Addison is warden of the Joseph Harp Correctional Facility near Lexington. It opened in 1978 with just 4 cell blocks. It now has 8 housing units and 1,400 inmates. And it is the key center in the state prison system for treating mentally ill inmates. There is also a mental ward at Oklahoma State Prison and another at the Mabel Bassett Prison for women. Warden Addison says the job of treating the mentally ill behind bars has become increasingly more difficult and expensive as their numbers increase each year.
And a lot more treatment of that category. And along with that, I think the places for community treatment have been eliminated over the years, so you get a lot of people that end up in prison.
An example of that, says the warden, is the recent closure of the Deaconess Mental Health Ward at a facility in Bethany, Oklahoma. 60 beds set aside for the mentally ill are now gone. That means some of the people who end up in a mental health unit at Joseph Harp are there simply because they have no place else to go.
Would probably be better off in community treatment. Some of them may well be. But I think in times that continue to get involved with activities in the community that gets them in trouble. And I'm sure at some point everybody gets to saying, hey, we're tired of messing with this fella. He needs to be out of the community. And we end up with a lot of them in prison here.
Joseph Harp has psychiatrists and psychologists along with mental health workers who provide treatment. That plus medication is costing a lot of money.
Very expensive. Medication-wise, staff-wise. It takes a lot of people to watch these fellows. You have to not only protect them from other offenders, you have to protect them from themselves too.
It costs the state between $12 and $15 million a year to run the Joseph Harp Prison. The cost of psychotropic drugs the Department of Corrections uses is also going up. Figures supplied by the agency show that since 2009, drug costs have been steadily climbing to now more than $1.3 million a year.
It's going to cost you. It's pay me now or pay me later, one of the two. As long as we continue to lock people up, somebody's going to have to pay the cost of it. And it's going to be the taxpayers.
Dr. Robert Prowitzky recently retired as Director of Mental Health for the Department of Corrections. He believes taxpayers could get a much better deal if policymakers changed their view on who should be in prison and increased funding for mental health programs in the community.
We have effective, assertive community treatment programs here in Oklahoma that if we had the resources for them, that cost $8,000 to $9,000 a year per person for the very seriously mentally ill, compared to $30,000 to $40,000 a year to incarcerate somebody.
And that's not the total cost.
The human suffering and the cost that's involved with somebody who has a serious mentally ill, who's vulnerable to begin with to being victimized, comes into the criminal justice system, and it's a trauma for them.
The cost of families is something Sheila White knows all about. Sheila was released from prison in October of 2012 after a lifetime in and out of jail for what began as petty crimes up to bogus checks and drug convictions. Sheila says it was the treatment she got in prison that turned her life around.
I think it's sad. I really do. I think that my life would have truly been a lot different. I think there have been a lot of things that I would have accomplished and have done succeeded in. I feel that my family would not have had to suffer. My children wouldn't have had to go through what they had to go through. It's a lot of things that could have happened and life would have truly been a lot better.
Sheila is 47 years old now, and for the first time since becoming a teenage mother, she feels like she is being a real mother to her children.
Now we got that. We all bond. We have time. They got me a big old thing for my birthday with pictures since I'd come out of different time periods we done had. And so this is my life starting with them. And even though they all grown, this is like life starting for us.
During her last trip to prison, Sheila was diagnosed as mentally ill with a drug addiction. She got treatment and services that for the first time helped her illness. And before she was released, people with the Ricket program showed up to begin the process of easing her back into society.
Asking questions, what am I wanting? You know, what is he looking for in this program or what the program had to offer? And continue to keep on seeing me till my time got down closer and closer. And that I was for sure that I did not want to go back home and return to where I come from, that I was willing to go through with this program.
Ricket stands for Reentry Intensive Care Coordination Team, a program run by Hope Community Services with assistance from the Department of Corrections, Department of Mental Health, and the Department of Rehabilitative Services. Sheila White says the Ricket program helped her learn how to deal with life on the outside, stay drug-free, and begin a real life.
Where they had put me up in a motel, took me shopping, from my clothing to my food to you name it. How they took me everywhere to get everything situated, from my bus pass to teach me how to ride the bus, to my classes, to my medication.
Most important, the program provided a support team she had never had before.
It held my hand, and we done a lot of crying, and I done been a big scary baby because I was scared. And still was going through a lot of things because I was still dealing with depression. I was still confined and secluded, still afraid to come out to society. I didn't know how to function.
Paul Sobcher lives in the Mental Health Unit number 2 at the Joseph Harp Corrections Facility. It is one of 2 special housing units for inmates diagnosed with mental illness. Paul was also in and out of the jail and prison system for most of his life and addicted to drugs as well. His life continued to spin out of control until Christmas Eve night 2010, when he beat a man to death with a rusty pipe. He is now serving 35 years as a part of a plea agreement for second-degree murder. Today, Paul appears much different from the day he was arrested and from his past pictures when he was placed in prison for various convictions. He was sent to Joseph Harp Mental Health Facility just over 2 months ago.
I'm a recovering addict, and They pretty much hit the nail on the head being paranoid schizophrenic, because whenever I got high, I was paranoid all the time. And this place is like, I call them angels because they help me. You know, they really help me.
Paul says he now views his time behind bars as a chance to give something back.
Well, I'm around people that are, I guess you can say, bad off than I am. So you just kind of help them out. I mean, what I do, I try to help people out. Try to talk to them, the younger guys that's having a hard time.
Sobcher passes the time in his cell reading and doing odd jobs around the unit, and he also has his sense of humor back.
I clean the pods, work out. Basically, that's pretty much it.
Is the food good?
Food is good.
Even though he is facing 35 years behind bars and is under the 85% rule due to his past convictions, because of the treatment he has received in prison, Paul still has hope for the future.
There was a period when I looked at myself and I really thought I was dead. That's how out of it I was. But I don't count myself as being, my life as being over, because anything is possible,
There are about 200 inmates in the 2 units at Joseph Harp and about 100 more in a step-down unit the inmates go to when they are deemed stable enough. But in reality, there are a lot more inmates at Joseph Harp who suffer from mental illness.
As they become medication compliant, we put them into GP. We probably got in the range of 500 to 600 that range in this facility in that category that we give medication to.
Dr. Jana Morgan is the new Chief Mental Health Officer for the Department of Corrections. She says their reintegration program is proof that the mentally ill can become productive members of society.
When you provide those services and continue the treatment, and offenders have that support when they get out, it has greatly reduced the recidivism rates for those offenders. And so if they had that in the beginning, it would be great to stop it before it ever starts.
The Ricket program has cut recidivism among the mentally ill prison population by nearly half. But at the same time, the number of new inmates entering the prison system with mental illness continues to grow, just as access to the mental health treatment on the outside decreases.
And if there's no treatment out there for them, odds are they're going to get into trouble and we're going to end up with them.